For those of you who've just joined us, again, you're at Navigating the Background Check Process, a step-by-step guide for licensed childcare. Please be aware, as we previously stated, that this is a draft video that is the basis for our final production video, and we're looking for your input and questions today in the chat around the video and what other resources would help support you through the online background check process. Now, in addition to the video that will be posted on the New Hampshire Connections website under the Providers tab in the Child Care Licensing for Providers area, there will also be a printable guide. We will take questions that come in not only to the Child Care Licensing Unit, but also through the chat today, and put those into an FAQ. And also there'll be tip sheets. Now, what does the guide look like? We wanted to give you an idea. The guide will be far more detailed than some of the information that we share with you today, and have step-by-step for each process. It'll be an ideal piece to share with your new and current employees to help them walk through the system. The idea isn't that they're going to try to do the background check while watching the video. So let's move on. First of all, welcome. This video and the supporting guide, Navigating the Background Check Process, a step-by-step guide for licensed childcare, is for childcare staff and their family members in households that require background checks. We'll be talking a little more about that as we move forward. You've chosen to work in a field that is vital to the economy, supports families, and most importantly, helps shape the next generation of New Hampshire citizens, one child at a time. This video is designed to help you navigate the required background check process, which is done through the New Hampshire Connections Information System that we call NHCIS. The background process applies to all those working in licensed child care programs, including center-based, family child care, Head Start, out-of-school time programs. It also applies to household members residing in home-based operations, whether they're centers or family child care. As we said, we suggest you watch this video all the way through and then use it as a guide throughout the process. Each of the steps are highlighted in the video, and the details can be found in the accompanying guide. Today, we'll be covering lots of information. And as you watch the presentation and read the guide, be sure to jot down any questions that you may have, and then refer to the contact list at the end of the video or in the guide if you need additional assistance. Today, our agenda will cover the background check process, how to access and use the background record tiles in the New Hampshire Connections Information System, step-by-step instructions for completing your background check, and what to expect next. Here is a list of the records that are accessed for the background check. In order to ensure that each person working with children's received a complete background check, a variety of information sources are used. All of these will be reviewed, with exception of the background check from other states where you resided in the last 5 years, which only applies to those of you who have lived outside of the state of New Hampshire in the last 5 years. In order to be deemed eligible to work in the licensed child care programs in New Hampshire, you must not be convicted of any of the following crimes that are listed here. There's additional information on background checks requirements for licensed child care programs. You can find those on the Child Care Licensing Unit page. The address is listed in the guide, as well as on the New Hampshire Connections page. Now, let's take a look at the process from start to finish. The background check process completion time is dependent on several factors: completeness and accuracy of your information, the response time from the state police and FBI, and whether you've lived out of state in the last 5 years. We suggest you begin by making your fingerprint appointment, either through the Department of Safety portal, that's the state police, or through a local police department with the ability to do live scan fingerprints. We'll be posting a list of available local police departments that have that capability on the New Hampshire Connections website, along with creating a tip sheet called Making a Fingerprint Appointment for your licensed childcare background check. Next, you'll sign up for your NHCIS account, or if you're a current licensed child care staff person or household member, you want to make sure that you have access to your existing NHCIS account. We'll also be providing an additional video and tip sheet on how to create an account in the New Hampshire Connections Information System portal, and also a troubleshooting list to help you with some of those challenges that you may have if you can no longer access or are confused about your account. Now that you have signed on to New Hampshire Connections Information System and linked with a program, we'll talk about more about that later, you're ready to begin your background check. You will go to the background check tile, complete and submit the required information. That will be followed by an email from Child Care Licensing Unit with instructions for your next steps. With those instructions, there's a list of the required documents you'll need to print out, which need to be notarized and mailed into the Child Care Licensing Unit with applicable fees. You also may get an additional email that'll explain the process for applicants that have lived outside the state in the last 5 years. Once you get to that point, your part of the process is complete. Now child care licensing takes over, and you'll be able to check the progress on your background check in your New Hampshire Connections Information System account. It's important before you complete the background record check information that you're prepared. You can save and re-enter the system as often as you need to. It is not a one and done. You can return, leave, get additional information, come back and complete it. But being prepared is the key to quickly completing the application, and this will help you get through the process more rapidly. Here you'll see a list of the things that we recommend that you do to prepare for your background record check. As we said, we suggest your first step is scheduling that fingerprint appointment, because where you schedule a fingerprint appointment will impact what documents you need to fill out. Be sure to note, ink prints are not accepted. You'll create your account in NHCIS. You'll link yourself to a program or provider. Then you'll be ready with the correct information, like your legal name, any aliases. You're going to need to confirm your legal address and any addresses that you've resided at in the last 5 years outside of the state of New Hampshire. Bear in mind, you're going to need to know for those the physical address and the month, day, and year you moved in and out of the residence. You'll need to determine if you need an employment eligibility card. And as you see in this video and the guide, most everybody does, with a few exceptions. Also, we recommend you jot down your registration identification number, which is going to be in the upper right-hand corner of your NHCIS screen. That will help the help desk and some of our other support team assist you if you need help with certain issues, particularly technological ones. Now let's look at step 1, the background check tile and the application on NHCIS. After you register for an account on NHCIS, your portal page will populate with a number of boxes that are called tiles. These tiles include the professional registry, training tile for tracking your professional development, and the background record check tile. Now here's the first snag you could run into. What if you don't see your background check tile? Well, that is most likely because you didn't link with a child care program. Linking with a child care program means that you have identified the program either where you currently work or where you anticipate working. If you did not link with the program, the background check tile, as you see here, will not appear. So click on this pink box and it will take you to where you can indicate and link with one program. Now, how do you know what program you're linking with? Well, there's a list available, and you'll see in the guide that there's an actual reference you can pull to where you can pull up the list online of the child care programs. That's through the child care search portal on the New Hampshire Connections website. In addition, you can also ask your current employer how their name is actually listed on the program's license. We do want to add, sometimes it's a little tricky finding the exact name and location. For example, some programs have abbreviations or modified spellings in their license name. For example, a program might be named Kids with a Z, and you may not recognize that or realize that during your application process. The easiest way to find out how it's listed on your license is to ask your future or current employer how it is listed. Now you've got the background tile, or background record check tile. You want to hover over the tile and you're going to see this come up, blue square that says View Dashboard. Click on that square and it will take you into the application process. You're going to start in the background record check tile. You'll see once you've clicked on Dashboard, you see this blue box right here that says New Application. This applies to both new applicants and renewals. Click on that box. This screen will pop up and it says New Background Record Check. Click on that box and it will bring up the menu that will show you the sections you need to complete. So let's start the application. You will notice on the left-hand side of the screen, there are 5 different points of the application process. Take a few minutes to read the introduction and instructions here before moving on. Once you click Next, personal information will pop up. You will notice that most of these fields are already pre-filled. That's based on information that you put into your NHCIS account when you signed up. If any of the information is incorrect or is changed, you need to go back to your profile and make those changes. Now you get to the parts that are not pre-filled. That includes your hair color, your eye color, your sex, and if you have a driver's license and driver's license number, you would add that here. Now, if you need to leave the middle of your application and come back later to finish, just click the Save and Exit button at the top. That allows you to save what you've already done and come back and finish it up. Once you're done confirming the pre-populated information and completing the additional fields, you'll want to click Next to go on to the next section. We do want to point out here that you will need to type in your current address. Most likely it will automatically populate. Sometimes it takes more than a few characters to get it to pop up, but in most cases your address will turn up. If it doesn't, feel free to type it all the way in and use the pull-down menus to indicate the state. Now you're ready to go on to the Criminal History Record Information Authorization, called the CHRI. Now right here is the first time where you're seeing the program that you link to. Remember the pink box? Remember the program that you're either currently working at or plan to work at? That should appear here. If it does not appear here, in other words, it's incorrect, then you will need to complete what's called an eligibility transfer request. The eligibility transfer instructions are located in the How to Change My Program link in NHCIS tip sheet that's on the New Hampshire Connections website, as well as the DHHS license, childcare licensing website. Just as an added note, you may think, well, what if there isn't anything here? Well, that won't happen because you cannot see the background check tile at all, and it cannot even start the process if you haven't listed a program. Now, let's move on. Now you come to the Household and Personnel form. This has 2 sections, your aliases and addresses, and employment. In the aliases, you'll be adding any names that you used other than the current name, your legal name that is in the previous document. So for example, if you had a nickname and went by that nickname in various places, or if you had a maiden name, this is where you would do the add alias. And we recommend that if you're not sure if you've used an alias, err on the side of adding it just in case. Now, the next section is previous addresses. And here what you're going to do is only add addresses where you've lived that are in other states other than New Hampshire. Don't forget, on personal information, we already have your current address. Now, let's save and move on to the next screen. This is your employment screen. Again, here you're going to see the program that you linked to, your current role, and what your start date was. The only thing you can edit on this page is the start date. That's all that should be listed here is your current employer or your current intended employer. And if you have worked in other child care programs, you should add that employer here. If you have not been employed in a licensed child care program in New Hampshire for over 6 months, you must leave this section blank. Now let us remind you, this is for New Hampshire licensed child care employment only. Again, push Save and Next, and it takes you to the review page. This is your opportunity to go through and ensure that all the information that you have put in is complete and accurate. Pay attention to spelling, dates, all the information, because this is really your last chance to take a look at this information before you submit it. If you see an error, you can make the change by clicking on one of the green listings up here for each section: personal information, the CHRI authorization, the household, and personnel. Once you feel that the information is complete and accurate, you can push the Submit button. And voila, now you've submitted your application. It's in NHCIS, and now you're ready to receive the email to tell you the next steps. One of the questions you may be having right now is, do you need to request an employment eligibility card? Here are the details regarding an eligibility card. As we said before, most everyone who's the licensed child care staff will need an eligibility card, except for the people listed here. Now, let's look at the next step, which is printing and mailing your documents for review by the Child Care Licensing Unit. So first of all, be sure to check your email inbox and look for an email from the Child Care Licensing Unit. It's important in your NHCIS account that you keep a current and active email address, because that's the key for us getting in touch with you on your background check as well as other information. Now you've received the email and you're going to get step-by-step instructions. Read the instructions regarding printing and mailing the documents and follow the instructions. There are two sets of instructions, very, very similar, depending on whether you're getting your fingerprints done through the Department of Safety, CHRI applicant portal, which is the state police, or whether you had them done through a local police department. Now, how do I find my documents? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to locate them on your background record check. Look at the main NHCIS portal page in the left-hand column under My Documents. Now click on My Documents to open a list of all your saved and available documents. If you have populated your NHCIS account with such things as your transcripts or training records, they will also be in here. So you want to be careful to look for your background check documents. Now click on My Documents to open the list, and you'll see available and listed. What you're looking for, if you got your fingerprint appointment through the Department of Safety, State Police, are these: your household and personnel document, your employment eligibility card. Please note that the employment eligibility card is available for both the state police fingerprint, and also you'll see available for the police department. The household and personnel form needs to be notarized. These two documents will be mailed into the Child Care Licensing Unit with your applicable fees. Now, if you got your fingerprint appointment through your local police department, you're going to add an additional form: the household and personnel document, like we said before, that needs to be notarized, your criminal history records request, and your employment eligibility card. These three documents are mailed in along with your applicant live scan form that you receive when you have your fingerprints printed at the police department. When you have your fingerprints done through the state police, those records come to us directly through the state police portal. Now, hold on a second. Maybe you've lived outside the state of New Hampshire in the last 5 years. This is an important part and often gets overlooked, and it can hold up or bring your background check to a complete stop. If you have lived outside the state of New Hampshire in the last 5 years, you put those addresses into your application that you submitted. You will get a separate email that will describe exactly what you need to do to access the required background checks for all the states where you lived in the past 5 years. You're going to complete the submissions for each of those states, and they vary according to the state. Some are done online, some are printed out, some require fees, and you complete all those, and then you're going to mail those in as well with the applicable fees. Again, please pay special attention to details. This will slow down or bring that background check to a halt if we don't have all the correct information. Next, you're going to mail in the documents based on the instruction list. Those documents all go to the Child Care Licensing Unit at 129 Pleasant Street in Concord. Now, what happens? Your part of the process is complete. First thing that happens is, as soon as you submit your application and it's complete, you will have your dashboard will light up under My Applications with Under Review. That's when your paperwork is completed, your fees are received, and it's being processed. So your application status is changed to Under Review under My Application. Your fingerprint results, abuse and neglect registry, and other documentation will arrive at the Child Care Licensing Unit and will be included in the review process. You can watch the progress of your application in your background record checks tile. So what is the review process? The process can take several weeks depending on results from criminal or abuse and neglect registries, whether you lived out of state in the last 5 years or the timing of your fingerprint scan. After the Child Care Licensing Unit receives your application, applicable fees, and the results of your various checks, a full review is made to determine your eligibility to work in the field. There are 3 different initial outcomes that can occur: complete application with positive results, incomplete application that couldn't be fully reviewed, or a complete application with adverse results. So let's look at what each result means. So if your application packet is complete and all the record checks are reviewed, and your application will then be fully reviewed. Once CCLU receives the results of your fingerprint-based criminal record check from the Department of Safety, and there's no disqualifying information, your employer will receive an email notification from CCLU stating you are cleared to work under supervision of staff who've already been deemed eligible. There's no change in the status on your background record checks tile. Only the program is notified. So it's very important to remember that the program is the one that should reach out to you and let you know that you can start work under the supervision of already eligible staff. Now, when the results of all the background checks are received and you're deemed eligible, your status on the background check tile will change to processed with an expiration date, and an expiration date will appear. This will be followed by an email to you, and you will appear eligible on the program staff's roster. Now you've completed the background record check process and are cleared to work directly with children. If you were required to obtain an eligibility card, you'll see the confirmation online and a hard copy will be mailed to you. Now, what happens if my application packet was not complete? You'll receive an email letting you know what is still required by Child Care Licensing before they can finish processing your application. Failure to get this information updated or mailed in will result in ineligibility. So please watch for that email. The review will follow the same process as stated previously when the submission was complete. If you receive an eligible result, your status in the background record check tile will change to processed, and an expiration date will appear, and this will be followed by the email to you and your provider. Now, what happens if your application is complete, but it was reviewed with an ineligible result? If a background check has returned results that automatically disqualify you from working in a child care program, you'll receive a letter from the Child Care Licensing Unit notifying that you are ineligible, which will include the information that led to the disqualification and the process for appeal. In addition, your potential employer will receive a notification that you're not eligible without details of the reason why. The employer's notification does not have any specific information that led to that determination, as that is confidential. It's your decision whether or not to share that information with your employer. When you review your letter, if the information provided is not accurate, follow the instructions on how to appeal. If you're able to have your information corrected, you may resubmit your background check and check for a determination of eligibility. In some cases, there's convictions on abuse and neglect registry information that are not automatic disqualifiers, but require further review by law. In those instances, you'll receive a letter from the Child Care Licensing Unit with instructions on what to submit for supporting documentation, such as letters of reference or proof of completion of programs as required by the court. This letter will include a due date. So remember, it is essential to not be made ineligible for you to get that information in. Again, your employer is not notified of this extended review, and it's your decision whether or not to share that information. Once the additional review is complete, you will be notified as to whether or not you're eligible. Your employer will be notified if you're determined ineligible as previously described. So what's the eligibility notice look like? It's an email stating that your background check makes you eligible to work in childcare. Again, we want to remind you for that first cleared eligibility that is related to having your fingerprints completed, your fingerprint check, that does not make you fully eligible. It makes you cleared to work with supervision under already cleared staff and will not change your status on your tile, and only your employer will be notified. What's the eligibility card notification look like? It looks like this. This is a letter that you will receive, and then your eligibility card will be mailed to you. Now you've completed the process and you want to prepare for the future. Your background check is valid for 5 years, and you can start the renewal process as early as within 120 days of the expiration date. Ideally, our system will notify you at that time and continually notify you. We also recommend that you put it in your phone on your personal calendar, just to remind yourself. Now let's just quickly look at the background check record steps for you again. You make a fingerprint appointment, you make sure you have an active and accessible NHCIS account, you pull together the information you need, you complete the online information, you print it, you get it notarized, you mail it in with the appropriate fees, and then you check your status on the application as it goes through the review process, and you receive your background check eligibility findings. Remember to make and keep your fingerprint appointment. One of the things that slows down our applicants many times is that they will make a fingerprint appointment and forget to attend. It is vital that you get that fingerprint appointment as soon as possible and get it done and get the results on their way to us. Again, don't hesitate to look at the Making a Fingerprint Appointment for your background check tip sheet, which will be posted very soon on the New Hampshire Connections website. Now, who do I call if I have a problem? You can go to New Hampshire Connections website, and again, it's under Providers and Child Care Licensing for Providers. If you need help getting access to your New Hampshire Connections information system account, the Child Care Aware team can help you. You can click on live chat or send them an email. To reach out to the Child Care Licensing Unit with questions regarding your background check, please use the email support. Shoot them an email, let them know what the issue is and how they might be able to help you. For additional questions, you can also go to the DHH website, which is listed here. Now, one of the things that in the New Hampshire Connections information system that you can access is the help desk. We just want to remind you that the help desk is for system issues and technical issues around the background check, and not what we call content questions or timing questions. All you have to do is sign into your account and then click on the submit a support ticket by clicking on support. There's also tool tips on many of the pages, and you'll be able to click on those and they will help you with specifics in each one of the various pages on the NHCIS website. That concludes our presentation portion of our discussion today.